I'd like to welcome everybody. This is the Mayor's Forum. Previously it was known as the Community Chat with the Mayor. I thought I'd change it up just a little bit. A couple of different things. One thing, as you note, we're starting at 5:30. That's to hopefully give more people an opportunity after work, or if they're transitioning from work to home, an opportunity to join in. These are recorded. The other thing I switched up a little also is that we're not going to have all the directors from the various departments on the call. We'll have a featured, I want to say, speaker each month. We're going to keep it somewhat fluid in case a hot topic comes up and people want to listen to something that they think that may be important, or we have a hot topic that's going around in town. So we're going to take that approach. We will have, after our featured speaker, which is Mike Moriarty tonight, we will have Q&A from him, or after he gives his presentation and talk. I'll go ahead and do a town council update. Todd will give a town manager's update, and we'll have Q&A after that. And the Q&A can be it's not just limited to what we're speaking about. It could be on any topic that you'd like to talk about. The other thing you're going to note that's a little bit different is we're not doing the panelists versus participants. We're letting everybody into the same room. So if you feel like you want to kill the video, that's fine. We won't be offended by it or anything like that. Just please make sure you stay on mute. That would be appreciated. So with that, does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Michael Moriarty. He is our Communications and Code Enforcement Manager. And if I have this right, I think Michael started in 2019 on a contract basis and led him into full-time employment. And this is the other thing we're going to do a little bit different. Instead of Michael just start talking about code enforcement, I'm going to ask Michael if you can give a little bit about your background, your career, if you have any favorite hobbies, anything like that. It'll be kept short, if you don't mind, maybe like 3 or 4 minutes, kind of like the elevator speech.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the introduction. And if I could just direct you to the column on the right in the event that while I'm speaking, if somebody shows up in the waiting room, if you can just allow them to come in, that would be great, so I can focus on this presentation, or at least the discussion today. So yeah, thank you. Mike Moriarty. You are correct that I started with the town in 2019 as the code enforcement officer on a contract basis. And so over the last almost 3 years now, it's morphed into the position of code enforcement / communications manager with the town. But my service to the community of Corte Madera started way before 2019. I actually started in 1996 for the town of Corte Madera as a Twin Cities police officer. I worked for 7.5 years for Twin Cities, which is now Central Marin Police Authority. And I lateraled over to another agency, Sonoma County Sheriff, and I retired with a disability retirement back in 2016. I got pretty severely hurt chasing some bad guys, had a lot of surgeries. And so now I'm back to civil service. So I really have a passion for helping people in the community. I really have it's really, my values are all about public safety and public transparency, and just giving back to the community. I'm a 2nd-generation policeman, and I just have a real passion for helping people and the community. So you oftentimes hear me on some of these forums talk about understanding that we are your community leaders and public staff. We do work for the community and our residents, and that is why I listen and understand, try to evaluate and try to help everyone who possibly can with the town of Corte Madera and surrounding areas. But I have a real passion for public engagement and helping the community, and so that's why you see me oftentimes going the extra mile to help our residents in Corte Madera. So with that, in my career, 20-something year law enforcement, I did a number of things. I taught at Hall Middle School. I taught DARE. I was a training officer. I worked investigations for 10 years. I was on a tactical team. But, again, my passion was just helping people. I worked a lot of elder abuse cases and financial crimes. And when Todd called me back in 2019, said he had an immediate need for someone who can communicate with the community, and trying to bridge that gap in public trust. And so that's why I'm here, and I'm trying to instill those values in my coworkers and colleagues and continue to strengthen the public trust that we have with our community. So with that, I'll open it up. I'm a Sonoma County resident. I have 2 boys, one 19, one 22. I'm a grandfather, proud, born and raised in Marin. And, you know, I live in Sonoma County now, and just having all intentions to work, you know, maybe another 7+ years for the town of Corte Madera, if you all have me. And I look forward to many adventures along the way. So with that, I will take any questions from either members of the community or you, Mr. Mayor, or Todd, if there's any questions.
I guess, hey, Michael, why don't you kind of tell us what's going on? I know there's been issues with dogs off leash in the park. Sounds like there's been some vandalism at the bathrooms in Town Park. I know your code enforcement guys have been out and about in town. Maybe you just kind of give us an update about what's going on with them. And it seems like the one that hits home with a lot of people is the dogs off leash.
Yeah, maybe I'll take a step back and talk a little bit more about code enforcement and what that is. So having a background in law enforcement, I understand the municipal code, and you know, I have a good understanding of, you know, what empathy and being compassionate to you know, our members of our community. So what we do with code enforcement is we're trying to take a lot of the day-to-day activities that are benign from the police department and handle those internally. So we're focusing on parking violations. We're focusing on complaints from the community regarding municipal code violations, like you know, dogs off the leash, like you mentioned, graffiti in the neighborhood. Sometimes there's houses in a residential community that, you know, are stacking up miscellaneous things out in front of their house that are not as appealing to other neighbors. And so we get involved, and basically what I see us doing is we're problem solvers. I have another employee who works.
So a question, are you a console-based company?
Company.
No, for him, for me to ask him.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question? Oh, are you talking to Linda? I believe that was you that was speaking. Were you intending to ask me a question?
Yeah, just to let everybody know, for you that may have joined us late, we switched up the format. So we're not doing panelists, participants. Everybody's on the same screen. So again, if you can go mute, it would be appreciated. If you have a question, raise your hand and we can call on you. So we have a little bit semblance of order. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I think that might not have been for me. So I just, I lost my my train of thought here, but what we do within the town is we're problem solvers. So community members call and they want to report some type of an issue. It might be a disagreement with neighbors, and what we do is we look at the municipal code, and let's say it's about a fence, and we try to determine, you know, the actual height requirements of the fence, and try to come up with an amicable solution.
A computer. Okay.
Hey, Linda, if you can go on mute, please.
Can you mute her, Fred? Maybe you can mute her.
She just muted. She just muted.
I muted her. That's fine.
Thanks.
we all know that technology is can be challenging at times. So, but a lot of it, like just going back, we do a lot of problem solving, but we take care of the needs of our community. So if a neighbor's if a resident calls and says, hey, you know, there's an issue with the sidewalk is, there's a tripping hazard in front of somebody's residence. So we work with the resident to secure the necessary permits to correct the sidewalk, or overhanging trees that may be encroaching and causing a hazard for pedestrians or bicyclists. We work with the residents to correct those. A lot of what we're doing right now is we're supporting the building department with construction work that's occurring without permits. So, you know, we are out there, you know, 6-7 days a week, and we're ensuring that those who are building within our community are building within the building code, in compliance with the building code. So we're jacks of all trades, so to speak. We're doing everything from dogs off the leash to parking enforcement to building code violations. but we also support the police department, the fire department with the defensible space. And unfortunately, over the last 2 years, we've been tasked with enforcing a lot of the shelter in place oh gosh, I'm losing the thought here. But anyway, the health order, we've been having to go and verify mask compliance, social distance compliance. It's been very labor intensive. And so I'm really happy that we're starting to climb our way out of that. So that's just some of what we do on a day-to-day basis. We have seen vandalism throughout town, and what we do, our municipal code states that in the event of vandalism, it's the property owner's responsibility to correct the condition. So we work with we notify the property owner, and we work expeditiously to cover and correct the condition. If it's on town property, we immediately take care of it. So with that, I'll open up any questions I may have with members of the community. And I just like to say, I'm happy to be here. I see a lot of the faces, familiar faces. I've talked with many of you on both personal and business related tasks. And so I welcome any questions. Thank you.
Hey, Michael, do most of your calls come, I'm sorry, Karen, do most of your calls come from phone calls, or is it mostly like your code guys going out there and seeing something? And then Karen, will get you next.
You know, we tend, so on the town's website, there's a way to send a complaint, generate a complaint with regards to, you know, it could be a building planning, it could be anything, but we get complaints that way, or direct email. We have on the town's website, we have a code enforcement department, a direct email contact list. So we primarily get it through emails or through the website. However, you know, we just moved last week, and my phone rang yesterday for the first time. It rang twice, and it was like I was surprised because I hadn't received any calls in some time. But most of our work is complaint driven through either an email or a text message or cell phone call, but there is a significant amount that occurs through proactive enforcement with our patrols. So over the weekend, we did get 2 phone calls and emails about construction work without permits. One was in the East Corte Madera, it was significant, substantial remodel that occurred without permits. And so those are the type of cases that we want to get involved and ensure that the construction work is performed in compliance with the local health and safety codes and the building codes. So, and then parking enforcement, obviously we're monitoring. We understand we do have somewhat of an elderly community, and it's balanced, and we want to ensure that our, you know, the handicap spaces within the community are free and they're being used by those who have legitimate, valid handicap placards, that our fire zones are being clear, that our red zones are clear, and that there are no ADA issues within town as well.
Okay, thanks. I'm sorry, Karen, go ahead. I was a little bit too quick.
I just had 2 questions, neither of which are related to code enforcement. I was wondering if it's appropriate to have a quick update about the move, as well as I drove down 101 and saw that there's some activity going on at the Casa Madrona, and I was wondering if we could have a little bit of an update of what's happening over there.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead, Michael.
So we have successfully moved town hall facilities last week, Monday and Tuesday, from the 300 Tamalpais, the old town hall building, to the current location, which is the Hunt Plaza business complex located at 240 Tamil Vista, and we're in suite 110. We also have acquired and have a lease for suite 108, which is directly across the hallway, which has been converted to a interim council chamber. So that's, and moving forward, when we pass through some of the COVID protocols, there'll be some type of hybrid community meetings, commission meetings, council meetings that are going to occur at that location. You know, obviously, you know, the move occurred last week, Monday and Tuesday. We're still emptying boxes. We're trying to figure out what goes where, but we are open for business, and we're trying to have a seamless transition in services. And so I hope that suffices the update for town hall. Let me just go back. So all services at town hall have moved except for our engineering department and the sanitary sewer project manager. Those staff members are in the portable building at the old, between the fire station and the old town hall is the double wide, large commercial trailer. So that's it for the move. Our public works maintenance team didn't move. They're right next door to us now on Lucky Drive, which is adjacent to the 240 Tamil Plaza building. So it's very convenient for us as well there. With regards to the Casa Buena, which was, I believe, the second update you requested. So that is currently has active building permits right now through the county's community development department, and they are renovating the facility, the internal units to add kitchenettes and make it more sustainable for permanent substantive housing. They are not open right now. There's nobody living there. It's been shut down for about 2.5 months, with current residents expected to move in March, April, pending on the outcome of the construction. And so that should accommodate 18 permanent housing units for those who are suffering homelessness. And that is managed by Homeward Bound of Marin. They have a contract from the County of Marin to operate the facility. Prior to that, it was Catholic Charities. So I hope that answers your question, Karen.
Yeah, and I sit on the working group because we created a working group when that project first came up. There's, I think, about 8 or 9 of us on that group, including Leela Monger and one of the other council members. And probably they're supposed to, I think, reopen in early March, plus or minus. We're actually going to do an open house before residents move in. So our residents or anybody will have an opportunity to go visit to see what the units look like. And it was Marin County that's actually doing the work on those units. So did anybody have any other questions for Michael? Okay, hey, Michael, I just have it. I'm sorry, Susie, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's really a great position that we have him in the town, because without him here, because we didn't used to have that. Isn't that right? Isn't that I mean, before you started, we didn't have that position. And now you're sort of a cross between the police department and the actual, like say public works. And I think it's really great because you can make a complaint and not feel like you're really ratting on somebody cop wise, if you know what I mean. And yet it will get taken care of. I know we had a problem in the creek that Bob Bundy and I both thought was off base, and it went to you guys and it just got smoothly taken care of it. And we didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but we wanted it fixed. And it really worked well. So I always feel really comfortable working with you. It's a good department, something good we have.
Thank you.
Among other things.
Thank you.
It's good here. Hey, Michael, on that note, have you guys written any actual citations? Because it seems like something Susie said, you try to work with people more than just doing out the thing, citing them type thing.
Yeah, so we have issued some citations. I know about a year ago, I gave an update to the community on a council meeting that, we weren't positioned. We've done a lot of work. We've established an administrative citation ordinance to position us to be able to do this. So if we actually issue a citation, it's handled internally with the town as opposed to going to Marin County Superior Court. We've only issued a handful of those citations. They're starting to vamp up a little bit. One dog off the leash citation. Somebody received a citation. There's a traveling contractor that comes and paints the curbs throughout multiple communities, and he doesn't necessarily have the best reputation. We've seen a lot of negative posts on Nextdoor, etc. And so we encountered him and we issued him a citation for solicitation of business, as well as not having a business license for the town. So those were administrative. They're $100 ticket, but it's all about accountability. And we hope that he's learned, and that he's pretty aggressive with some of the members of our community, and we won't have that here in our town. Some of the other citations that we've issued are illicit discharge into the storm drain. Our administrative citations are real $100. If McStop gets involved in the County of Marin and they catch somebody illicit, some runoff into the storm drain, it could be thousands of dollars of fines. So we are working with the community. Some of the parking citations, I mean, these are principles and that we've all had as a driver since 16 years old. So if somebody's in a handicap spot and they don't have a legal reason for being there, we're less likely to issue a warning because we can't track that warning, and who knows if if that person's going to be in that occupy the space again. So we have issued several parking citations, and I mean, there's really not a defense to parking in a fire zone or a handicap spot when there are people in our community that need that spot, and so it's unacceptable. If you're pulling up in front of Phil's Coffee at Town Center and it says fire zone and it says fire zone and it's blatant disregard, we are enforcing it. We are also issuing pre-citation notices. So what's happening is if there's a building code violation, we issue a pre-citation. It's the same form, but there's no fine. And we give them a time frame in which they need to correct the condition. So it could be 30 days, it could be 60 days, it could be 90 days. And we really are working towards correcting the condition, correcting the behavior. And that's what this is all about. That's the philosophy that we're getting from our town leadership and our council and our manager, is to help members of our community. And so that is the mentality that I've had since I've been here, since at least in this position since 2019. Find a way to help people achieve their goals, get done what they would like to do within the confines of the law and within the boundaries of the code.
Do the fines for parking, do those go through the county and not the administrative type thing?
Yeah, so parking citation, it's actually, we're linked in with the Central Marin Police Authority's parking enforcement system. And so it actually says Central Marin Police Authority. And so that goes directly to the Marin Parking Authority. And so there have been cases where some of these citations, we don't know. We look around the car, we look inside, we see if there's like a blue tag or a red tag, a handicap placard. If it's not presented, if it's not displayed at the time, the citation will be issued. However, there is an appeal process, and so somebody just accidentally forgot to put it up. It's they just fill out an appeal and it's dismissed without any type of judgment at all. I know that there has been some revenues that have come in to the town as a result of it, and it's a direct to the town from the Marin Parking Authority. So the town doesn't collect it, but it's a third party.
Okay, thanks. But it sounds like the intent is not for us to be generating revenue through code enforcement. Correct. It sounds like your philosophy or the town's philosophy is more, let's work with people to work through this and see how we can work with them to a certain degree.
Absolutely. And we're seeing a lot, we've addressed a lot of abandoned vehicles or inoperable vehicles in driveways. And so the code allows us to take relatively quick action to correct the condition. But we're really understanding that people who collected cars over time or junk in their driveways, we're giving them plenty of time. We haven't issued any citations with regards to those type of things. And we're really trying to work with people to correct the violation, so to speak.
Okay. And then one other thing is that I think last year we approved I call them camcorders for the code enforcement officers. Can you just tell us how that's going? And I think Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we were the first town or city in Marin to do that, correct?
Yeah, go on, I'm sorry, Todd.
Yeah, we were the second city or town in the state of California to do that. So
yeah, actually,
pretty proud of that.
In fact, we're actually the second in the United States. There was only one other in Florida. And it's really been beneficial. And the officer that wears it, wears it with pride and tells the people he encounters, hey, just for your safety and mine, accountability, we're recording this encounter. And, it's a wonderful way to memorialize an interaction with the community that may not be favorable. And it really puts everyone at their best, in their best game, right? We all behave better. And so it's working out very well. I haven't had any complaints about any inappropriate encounters. the information is being saved in a cloud base, and it can be requested in a public information request. Full transparency. And that's what the community wants. That's what we hold ourselves to a high standard, and we will continue to do that.
Thanks. And just one quick thing before we go to Patty, just to clarify, from a privacy issue, when those are turned on, the code enforcement officers are pretty clear. You're being recorded. I'm turning on my camera. That's part of your protocol and your procedures, correct?
Yeah, we've established a policy and procedure when it's in the public. So if it's like a town park, there'll definitely be like an admonishment during the encounter. If it's in affiliation with a building inspection, we'll actually ask permission to record inside private property or inside a location where there's not a reasonable expectation of privacy. And I didn't get a chance to say this earlier, but the individual we hired to do code enforcement, he is a Corte Madera resident, and he actually has law enforcement experience as well. He was a state trooper in South Dakota. And so I've been very, oh, Susan, we got you laughing. Come on.
He needs to wear his hat. He needs to wear his trooper hat out there. It'll go over well.
Those guys are tough. Those guys are tough.
But,
Sorry, I thought I was on mute.
What I
Okay.
see,
It's all good.
what I've been seeing out of Adam is he is taken the philosophy that he's received from the town's leadership, and he is implementing it every day. I listen to his phone calls. I watch his video interactions with the community. I'm proud of him for the work he's doing.
Thanks. And I know at one point in time, there's some people that were calling them the black shirts. I think
I never heard that. See, I wear a blue shirt. I wear all different colors.
I'm sorry, Patty, go ahead.
This has nothing to do with anything, but I got into it with one of the electeds from another town who said that when I was bragging about how we have the car dealers, they said that, oh, well, that money doesn't go to the town. It goes to wherever the person lives. And I said, well, I think some of it goes to the town. So I think that's a Todd question.
Yeah, about 2.5 million of that goes to the town. So those dealerships are really important.
So it isn't where the person lives and registers the car?
No, there's the portion that'll go to that city or town, but still part of the sales tax, that revenue goes straight to us. Yeah.
Okay, so part of it goes to one, part of it goes to us.
Yeah, and if you take any industry for Corte Madera business-wise, they bring in per industry the most revenue to the town of Corte Madera by a wide margin. Yeah.
Even if they don't have to have cars there, they can just have a storefront. Thank you.
Does anybody have any final questions for Michael? Or Michael, do you have any other questions? No? Okay, go ahead, Becky.
I'm sure you have said this, Mike, and other venues, and I've just missed it. But thank you for putting it all together. I've seen you around a long time over at the police department in different positions. And thank you, Todd, for starting this position. I would bet the police department thinks of you as a breath of fresh air, because I know on our street we had code enforcement for a number of years, and people were always calling the police. And I remember one time I called because my kids were so scared, and I got the address wrong, and they said, "Don't you mean?" And they knew the address. They had gotten so many calls about that, and they were probably so happy. And it's not a coincidence that Todd and Mike, went together to form this. But so my question though is, it's a little facetious. So there are a lot of calls coming to Mike that used to go to the police department. Does some of the police department budget come over to pay for this?
Do you want me to answer that, Todd, or?
Yeah, so how do I answer this one? So historically, pre-consolidation, when we added San Anselmo in 2013, we work our budget off of funding formula. And so if you think about it, there's 3 departments within the police department. Everything is shared 33% amongst the three agencies, like the chief, the admin side, investigations, but the patrol officers, the officers in uniform, they were based on a funding formula of calls for service. And so to your question, Becky, absolutely, right? What we did though, is we took a 7-year kind of average of the three agencies when we consolidated, and we locked those percentages in, and we evaluated on an annual basis. And what I can tell you right now is if you move forward since 2013 to today, we do not want to open up the conversation of the funding formula. Corte Madera benefits greatly on that. And so I wouldn't recommend doing that right now. But what I also say is a lot of those calls just didn't get handled. You know, they were handled, like you said, Becky, they were handled poorly, you know, and just to be honest, we couldn't get to it in time. It was a day late, you know, a lot of these were neighborhood issues, ongoing issues. They just weren't handled accordingly. So how we handled this is Corte Madera is paying for this service. But what we've asked our cohorts to do in Larkspur and San Anselmo is to do the same thing. Do not, and so we all have unique things. So parking is really huge in San Anselmo, Larkspur, they have their nuances as well. So what we asked San Anselmo to do is to pay a portion of some of that parking enforcement. So they pay extra for some of the extra services. And so that's how we're handling it. We're backing out the city and town ordinances and leaving it to the responsibility of each jurisdiction. And if you want that service through the authority, you have to pay extra. So that's how we're kind of speaking to that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can touch on service too a little bit more too, Becky, is like, you know, the police department, we want them available to handle calls for service that are immediate, exigent, important. Not that the lower level calls are not important, but if an officer is tied up, you know, responding to a barking dog call or a noise complaint of a loud hot tub or a leaf blower, they're not doing traffic enforcement in our schools, and they're not handling the hot call for service over at Nordstrom on a grab and run, and they're not being, you know, present on the street. So, you know, the goal is to allow them to handle real police business and make them available for when those calls come. We want them available to handle business for us. Myself and my staff, we're handling those noise calls. So if that loud hot tub or the refrigeration unit from the business next door or the pressure washing occurring late at night over at town center, the police they're going to get the call, and it's going to be in what's called a pending mode. And if the officer is busy writing a DUI report, or that call's just not going to get handled appropriately. So if a member of our community reports one of these things, like the gas leak blowers or barking dogs or noise or something else that's some of a lower level municipal code violation, we're going to take the time to follow up. I'm going to knock on the door of the resident, find out what's happening. Why is the dog barking all night? You know, and we hear an explanation, but we're actually providing that extra layer of service to the members of our community. So I hope that helps understand too, from what separates us. I mean, we're not police officers anymore. I recognize that. I'm actually glad I'm not anymore. I'm proud of what I did, but now I really have this passion to help people, you know. And so with that, you know, we're here. No job too small, and just how to help our members of our community is important too.
It seems like it's a win-win almost, because from the code enforcement standpoint, it seems like Corte Madera residents get a higher level with respect to code enforcement. And meanwhile, it's freeing up the police department, like you said, to respond to maybe higher level calls like robberies or DUIs or anything like that. So it seems like everybody kind of wins.
For sure.
Okay. One last question, Michael, is maybe a loaded question. How fast or how long did it take you to respond to a complaint? And I don't know if they're different via phone, via email. And I know it's not like the police where you call, you may get like a 20-minute response time or a half-hour response time. Just what can people kind of expect?
So if it's something that's happening during office hours, business hours, we're going to get a call or an email, and we're going to handle it immediately. And so admitting somebody, and so that's going to happen the same day within minutes, hours. If it's something on the weekend, it's we have no choice but to handle it on Monday when we return to the office. But again, we're doing actual follow-up on these calls. We're not just letting it go. Hey, that happened the other day. We're going to find out. We're going to, if it's a leaf blower issue, I have a letter that I send the actual property owner. If it's a barking dog, we're going to go and talk to them, find out what's happening. So we are very responsive. I think that, Susie, some other members that are on this call here, they've either called or emailed me, and immediately we respond. I'm up kind of late at night. I actually have notifications on my phone for work. I don't, working investigations for 10 years and being on the, getting a call and having to go at all hours of the night has just got this, I just have this internal clock that I just can't shut that off. So my layer of service is, if I get an email, Todd sends me emails late at night and I'm responding at 1, 2. If I'm up, I respond. And so I don't have this on duty, off duty mentality. I work for the people, and I'll get to it when I receive it. And if I can help immediately, I will. And my staff is the same way as well.
It sounds like you're mostly on.
Well, you find a balance, right? I mean, I have flexibility in my schedule. I'm working right now. I worked in the office today. I'm here right now working remotely, but like it's a give and take, and you find the balance. And so it's taken me, 20 years of public service to understand what a balance is, instead of go, 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 go. But, I do appreciate the members of the community. I would love to, spend some time, maybe have coffee with some of the members of the community, listen to what they have to say, their vision for the future. That's what I'm about. That's what my staff's about. And so I'm hopeful that someone on this call may take me up on that offer, and we can go sit across from each other at Cafe Verde with our masks on and drink some coffee.
All right, thanks. Does anybody have any questions? Any more questions for Michael?
Well, since there's time, and you brought up storm drains, Mike, and I did send a note, I think, to Public Works on this, and I don't know if you're wanting to fight MMWD on anything, but during the summer when the MMWD was specifically helping us water less, there is a program where they offer free wood chips if you take your lawn out, and you can find that. It was on their website a month ago anyway, I saw it. But I have to tell you that I have seen, particularly in Mariner Cove, in this area, a lot of people had lawns, a lot of people want to put wood chips in. Well, what's happening is the rain came, winds come, and those wood chips, and they really load people with wood chips. They are going into our storm drains over here. So I think I did send a note. I didn't hear back from anybody. It wasn't to your department, Mike. But since you mentioned storm drains and stuff going down them, I think that's something we better take a look at, because I know you don't want those heavy things going down the storms, down the drains, especially here in Corte Madera. I wasn't going to talk specific, but you seem to have time right now. So
sure. No, I'm glad you mentioned that. So the last storm, and even the wind storms too, right? I mean, over like Prince Royal Passage, Golden Hines. I mean, I've seen the collection of debris that comes in the roadway, even up at the top of Westward. We've seen it. So it's just water runoff, and it's landscape design. But that's exact. That's how we get involved. We see that and we contact the homeowner, and it's their responsibility to collect it. And of course, they're reevaluating their landscaping now. They're like, okay, and I've seen that the corner house there on Prince Royal. I think that they had the bark, and now it's like a beautiful fake grass, and they're done cleaning up after themselves. So unfortunately, they should share that. You should have some protective.
MMWD is offering him this stuff. You take out so much lawn, and we'll load all this stuff over. I understand they're paying for it. Yeah. So I think that they need to take some responsibility, and they're dumping all this stuff that's really going right down the drains.
Yeah, I think they were running a grant program. I don't know if that money's been exhausted or not.
Well, it
Um,
was on the website not very long ago. I think it was less than a month ago that I had looked.
Okay.
So
Right.
it's something, it's called something for
Okay,
lawns. Or
One of
something.
them was called cash for grass, which I guess you interpret grass a couple of different ways.
Yeah, but I think that's what it was. Yeah.
This may be a good point to transition into town council update, which I'll give. We'll have Todd give a town update, and then we'll open it up for any Q&A on anything we talk about or anything anybody would like to bring up. Speaking of storm drains, there's a couple of things town council we did at our last meeting. One thing is that we awarded a contract to a independent company. I think it was 500 and some odd $1,000. They're going to go through all the storm drains, and they're basically going to come up with a master storm drain plan. That doesn't include just a storm drain. It includes the canals, the levees, the pump stations, all that. I believe it's going to be a 2 to 2.5 year project. But basically what will happen is at the end of that year, at the end of that project, RJ will be able to sit down and prioritize items which needs to be fixed. And then we can start attacking it that way. I did bring up the question at the town council meeting that if they see something and it needs like immediate fix, would it be more immediate? And he answered that yes. So as they go through this process, which I believe also includes putting cameras in storm drains, if they see something that is really outrageous, needs to be fixed, we're not going to wait 2 years to do that. That'll get bumped up as a priority item. The other thing we did also is that we approved the town hall project to go out to bid. I think it's about 13.5 million or so. And RJ, he's in charge of that. He went through a process, again, using an independent contractor to come up with numbers as far as construction in the new town hall. It's my understanding, Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, the time frame on that is that the bids will go out, I think, in February and into March. And then he'll come back to town council with those bids, and then we'll decide which bid to go forward with. And then after that, there'll be a construction schedule. And then the last thing that was kind of a hot topic is we passed an urgency ordinance. It's regarded to SB 9. Just on a high level, SB 9, it's California law, took effective January 1st. It basically allows people to split their lots. And after you split your lot, you can just basically build a duplex on it. Since it's state law, it's basically out of our control. So we have to comply with state law. So we pass an urgency ordinance. Some of the things that we put in as far as provisions is that it has to be a 60-40 lot split. Lots can't be any smaller than 1,200 square feet. We will notice neighbors within 300 feet, but the kicker to this is that it does not go through the planning commission. It's an over-the-counter application. So basically somebody walks into our new offices, says they want to do this, there's a review process, but there's no planning commission is involved in this at all. And again, that's per state law. There are deed restrictions that will be put on those lots or the units that are being built where they have to be rented longer than 30 days. So it avoids an Airbnb type situation. What else do we have here? Units can't be any greater than 1,000 square feet. There are also, which I won't go into detail, some fire department aspects as far as their accessibility. While there's no planning commission review, Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, within 10 days after an application gets approved, an interested party can request a review by the town. That review is done by the town manager and or his or her designee. So that's it on SB 9. And again, it's one of these things where it's out of the town's control because it's a state law. We had a pretty healthy discussion, I think, at the first meeting in January at the town council meeting. There could be numerous legal issues that come up with this from other cities. I think Santa Barbara or San Diego, they're requiring some of those units to be for affordability. And again, some of the stuff, it may just wind up working its way through the legal system. I think this month or so, or within the next month or 45 days or so, is that I think there's a couple of Bay Area agencies that are supposed to be providing some more guidance, which may help us. As it's an urgency ordinance, it's in effect for 45 days. After that, we can extend it for a year. So we may wind up doing changes to that depending on what guidance we get from other agencies. And with that, I think that was pretty much it. I'm going to turn it over to Todd for town manager's update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to share my screen. What I wanted to show you all, hopefully you can see my screen. What I want to show you all, this is our work plan. So again, the council on an annual basis meets with staff and basically affirms a work plan for staff to work on. And this is really how, as your town manager, how I'm judged at the end of the year. And what the council did is they broke it into 3 categories as for priority. Now they're all important, but they broke it into 3 categories. Category 1, basically that's what gets me fired if I don't deliver that. Category 2 and 3. And so I just want a high level, I want to touch from the work plan what we've been working on through the break going into February. And so the first one's fiscal sustainability. That's really important. We're about to come back to council in February with a mid-year revision to the budget. It's a positive revision. Our revenues continue to really drive forward within the town of Corte Madera. We've had a number of meetings with the town's finance subcommittee group. Larry Reed is one of the committee members. He's on the call, as is our mayor. And so we've been really focused. We feel like we're in a good spot with the unfunded liability steps that we've made over the last 12 months on the pension side. And so now our focus is moving towards the retiree health, the OPEB liabilities. And so right now, one of the recommendations coming from our finance subcommittee to council in February at the mid-year revision will be a recommendation of adding additional funding to our $4 million retiree health trust fund. And with that recommendation, if council approves it, we'll be approximately 60% fully funded in that fund. And that's a really good number to be at this point. Right now our unfunded liability is about $4 million. And so we've cut it in half, and we're going to try to close that gap to 60% at the end of this fiscal year. And so that's a big one. The other one that we've been focused on, sharing services. And so the town has taken steps over the past few years, and residents talked of, this is one example, code enforcement, communications, bringing in the administrative analyst, kind of positions we historically haven't had in our town, but showing it can be successful. And then at some point within that period of time, having that expertise, being able to sell shared services to other agencies. And so, an example of that is our Lorena. She's an administrative analyst with us. We shared her for a period of months with Fairfax to help them on a number of issues. And some of those issues we can share amongst both jurisdictions. So you can do the analysis for 2 jurisdictions and kind of, and make a little bit of money at the same time. And so we're going to bring a shared services opportunity to the council to share admin analyst services into the next fiscal year that could potentially bring about $60,000 revenue to the town of Corte Madera on projects that we would do anyway. And so it's just doing things smarter, more efficient, building relationships with our cohorts, and being smart how we move forward. The other one's land use. It's a big one. Obviously, the planning commission has got a big, heavy load in the next 12 months. We are going to, this is kind of a last minute thing, but we have an opportunity to have a joint meeting with the town council and the planning commission. And we're going to try to set that up for February 15th. It's our normal council meeting. We have a light agenda, and what we're going to try to do is have a joint meeting with the planning commission. And so to have our leadership from the council work with the leadership from the planning commission, Phil Metcalf is on the call right now. And so to really kind of put our heads together, how should we move forward with the housing element? There's some work we have to do there, but also some other items and philosophy within the town. It would be it's been a few years since the commission and the council have met. And so we're going to try to put that together because we have some really important issues moving forward. And we have good leadership on both sides. And so I'm looking forward to that. And so if you are free, please, attend that February 15th meeting. I think there's a lot to be had there. Climate hazards, a big one. What we're really focusing on, the President Biden just released the grant opportunities moving forward, starting in February with the American Rescue Act monies, but also with the infrastructure bill that passed. And so some things right away that will impact our town on projects that we are ahead of most in the state of California and really the nation is climate adaptation, bike and pedestrian access, all the great work of our BPAC committee, and the PG&E undergrounding, as well as potentially in 5 years, the Tamalpais overcrossing project. It's not our project, but that's a Caltrans project in the town of Corte Madera. So we are taking aggressive steps right now to really understand that and have a strong expertise in the submittal of those grants up front, because we believe we have some shovel-ready projects right now. And so we're going to look at every opportunity to tap into that, those monies as quickly as possible. And so more to come there. Again, on the PG&E undergrounding, there was a survey that went out that's closed. Our consultant is finishing up his work. I've gotten a lot of comments and people not understanding, not thinking maybe the right questions were asked. And again, just as a reminder, our survey, the work with our consultant as we approach and work with PG&E leadership is using their decision-making matrix to get what we need within the town of Corte Madera. You have areas on the east side of Corte Madera that has a really old infrastructure, maybe not a fire hazard, a safety hazard, a fire hazard. It's not a fire hazard, but it is a safety hazard. It's old. And so when you have those power shutoffs or a storm, they on average are, some areas on the east side are without power 80% longer than other areas in Corte Madera. And so we want to fix that. And then obviously within our tier 3 and tier 2 fire zones, we want those areas undergrounded that are high risk and susceptible to fire. So that's the work we're doing. More to come there, but we're making major progress in that area. And we may be able to use some of the infrastructure monies to support us there as well. Mike touched on town operations. We did our move, we're catching our breath. We want to have an open house, but COVID has kind of thrown a little wrench in that for us. But as soon as we can start to have, open things up a little bit more, have in-person meetings or a hybrid, have an open house, start doing some things, we are going to do that. And so more to follow there. Also, the town park restroom solution, we're using the master planning process a little bit there, but not to be a 2-year decision. It will be an immediate one. We've just been surveying our community and finding the right solution in the immediacy. And so that's a priority for us. And we hope to have definitely something in place by the time we get to spring, summer, when we have full use of that park. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have 2 staff members, Chris Ragland, our new hire recently within the building department, and also Lorena, our admin analyst, with Councilmember Mongan and myself. We are going to start holding some workshops and bringing some options to a work plan in this area in the coming months. And so more to follow there. Traffic infrastructure, we'll have RJ come on our public works side to share all the good work they're doing there. But again, we're starting underneath the roadways on the sanitary district side, fixing those, and then again, paving the roadways and doing ADA improvements as we go. One of the areas that I just really urge the community to focus on, we have a $500,000 sidewalk grant program, where we can help you as residents, to improve your sidewalks. And so, that money is there. There have been some sometimes it is a case-by-case basis. There are times where we've actually, instead of a 50-50 match, we've gone up to 80%, 100% in some areas, depending on the circumstances. So please, your neighbors, within your street, encourage them to get together and to reach out to me or RJ on that. Fee schedule will be at the end of the year. Customer service was a big one, and I'll stop. I have 2 more, but customer service was a big one. So with our move, we have everything's paper with us, and so we're trying to digitize everything. And so what we can digitize, we're going to. And so we have a Connex box, and over the next year, we're hiring a company to help us digitize all of our records. And so that'll be a great benefit not only to the staff but to our community when you want historical records. And so that's a big town initiative moving forward that I'm excited about. On the economic development part, again, our planning commission, our planning department is just doing great work out there. One of the things coming to the planning commission tonight, it's at 7 o'clock. If you have time, please join it. But it's the Corte Madera Inn project is going to the planning commission tonight. And that's been a multi-year conversation. And I think there's been a lot of positive developments there. And so I'm really excited to listen to that tonight and to see what happens. And then we are focused on improvements to the old Corte Madera Square and really starting to talk about visioning for what that potentially could be moving forward. Quality of life issues, short-term rentals is at the top of the list. Adam Wolf, our planning director, and myself entered a contract with Bob Brown. He's done a lot of work in Marin County, and our focus is short-term rentals. And so he's gonna bring an analysis through staff to the Planning Commission to start some discussions there on which way we should go moving forward on the short-term rentals, because there's a lot of decision points to be made there, and we're going to work through the Planning Commission on that. Again, vision for Park Madera Center. A lot of that is right now at the forefront within the Park and Rec master planning process. Again, more to come there. And with that, just a lot going on, but I'll stop there. And I have if I could, I just send it to the first person for a question. David McPherson, I think, is still on the call, right? Are you on the call, David? Yeah, David sent us an email earlier about kayaks and adding to a dock. And David, if you could just give everybody an overview on that. And then honestly, I'm a little bit ignorant to that area. I was getting educated by the mayor. So any education you could give me as well. Don't assume I know.
All right.
David, I have some brief background just from being on Park and Rec where it came up years ago. Go ahead.
Well, about 17 years ago, the town removed the dock at what's called Higgins Landing. And that was a small boat launch, canoes, kayaks, stand-up paddle boards, because it was damaged from a storm, and the requirement to reinstall it required an ADA ramp, and apparently it's extremely expensive. It's probably over $600,000 or $700,000. So it is sat unused. People in the community have wanted to get an additional launch there, and it's even a little bit more critical now because launches over by there's one on Corte Madera Creek near the rowing club, and that one has gone into disrepair. So the question that I had posed to town management via that email is that the town has a public dock that's located directly behind Marin Montessori, sort of adjacent to the parking lot of Marin Country Day School. And it is the dock itself, the freeboard, that's the distance above the water, is a little too high for launching a kayak, but there is an addition that can be acquired from a manufacturer that allows a kayak to launch there. So I just wanted to plant that seed and determine whether or not the town actually owns that dock, or whether it's owned by the BCDC, what access we have to it, and who would control whether or not we could add that $3,500 kayak launching ramp to the existing dock that is in good shape behind Marin Montessori. So I'm just planting that seed, and I've got a few other questions, but I'll follow up with any answers.
Yes, David, I appreciate that. So I've talked to RJ about it, and we're going to look into it. I've always thought that was a private dock, honestly, to my ignorance, and it's not. It's a public dock. So we're going to figure out ownership. We haven't maintained it in some time. So we're going to investigate that. And obviously, you have a private property, but then a public dock, and how does that work? And so we're going to work through all those kind of questions, and then we'll report back. And kind of
BCDC has pretty good signage that makes it clear that there is a sidewalk access that seems to be on Marin Montessori's property, but that it is dedicated to the public to be able to access that dock. And the dock does say that it's a public dock. And that sort of leads me into a second issue. Ring Mountain is, terribly popular, as it should be, on the weekends. And I counted almost 50 cars being parked there. And I wanted to know if the town had ever explored with MCDS whether or not they would allow their parking lot to be utilized on the weekends for the Ring Mountain hikers. And if it hasn't been explored with them, I just want to plant the seed that possibly an arrangement could be made where we can get those cars off of Paradise Drive and into a safe parking lot on the weekends.
Specifically, no, we haven't.
Hey, Todd, I can't tell if you're muted or just talking low.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, you're good.
So yeah, we haven't specifically had that conversation, but that's something we're in talks with them right now because of some of the issues, and that's something we can certainly add to the conversation.
Okay, and the next quick question I had is, does anybody in town management know why the construction for the homes on Robin Drive has halted? Is it just a weather situation, or is there some other reason why it's halted?
Yeah, I don't know any specific. I know that to my knowledge, there are no issues.
Yeah,
Okay.
they are moving right along. Maybe not to as quick as, but I think they had to do with the soil moving, and they shotcrete the hillside. But I was up there yesterday. Their tractor moving around dirt and stuff. I think that, getting the correct grading and the drainage is the initial phases. But they are working. The members of the Earth Tone are there. We actually have a PE, an engineer that is monitoring the conditions on the side. So I'm unaware of any delays.
Very good. That's great. And the final thing I wanted to plant the seed on is this, the digital marquee reader board that we have at the community center is really a favorite of mine. It's just, we pass it often. It helps remind us of important issues that are going on in town. And half of our town doesn't get the benefit of that. And what I'd love to plant the seed on and think about is whether or not there could be a reader board installed for the bayside of Corte Madera, either on San Clemente or somewhere on Paradise, so that all of those homeowners and residents get the same benefit that we on the west side get by passing the reader board on at the community center.
Yeah, we'll add it. I'll add that. I think one of the, as you say that, I mean, there's an opportunity prior to where Station 13, the firehouse, is on Paradise, because a lot of people on the Bayside do have to go through that corridor. That might be a good location, town-owned property, and that's something we'll look at. And again, that would be something we would have to talk to the planning department and the planning commission about. But yeah, that's a good. Thank you, David. Yeah.
The final thing I will say is that I encourage everybody to attend the final 2 public input sessions on what's referred to as the Paradise Drive Complete Streets project, which is going to be the extension of the multi-use path all the way down to Marin Montessori. We had a 3-hour BPAC on this subject a couple of days ago. And we still need more input from the community so that those final decisions about exactly how it will be engineered will be consistent with what the town wants.
David, Mr. Mayor, if I had one other update, because I think it's an exciting one, because it's community. And this was Rebecca Vaughn's idea, our town clerk and assistant manager. But as we start to head into the spring, because regardless if we're in this current situation of COVID, regardless, we would be able to do this outside. So we want weather to be nice. But we want to hold a series of community events outside and Town Park and the community center to handle like Rush. Think about Rush at like a college, right? So you have all of our volunteer, like we have so many volunteer groups. We have so many, like the boards and commissions. To everyone has their little stand, their little area, the beautification committee, everybody. And we're out there and like people can come out and meet, have fun, have food and drink, and like see all these boards and committees. Like they probably see it on the newsletter all the time, but they don't really put faces to the names. And to really just re-energize, our volunteerism in town and really try to build up all of our boards and committees, our volunteerism and all of our special groups. And so we're going to make that our priority. As Rebecca's idea, I think it's a great idea, and start doing some things in the spring. And that's probably from a community standpoint is going to be our coming out party as a town, and really just trying to get that energy back. And so I thought it was a great idea. Hopefully you do too.
Yeah, that's great. One other thing to think about also, since we're getting rid of the old town hall, is seeing if we can do a community event before that building maybe gets demoed, because I think we should be celebrating the old to bring in the new, and it may be a time to bring the community together on that also. This is kind of like go ahead, Patty.
I just wondered if there might be some hidden treasures inside the walls. If you're going to be carefully demolishing it to look for artifacts, something that will titillate John Hale.
Okay, when I got the idea to have a community event there, I think is there a way where we could let people maybe take hammers to the building? And it was one of those things where maybe there's too much liability, so I would have to rethink that one. I think just make it fun, you know what I mean?
I know the fire department wants to burn it down, so yeah, everyone's getting in line.
We can sell tickets. Does anybody have any questions on anything Todd talked about? I talked about anything else that anybody would like to talk about? Again, we're calling this a forum so people have the opportunity to speak up. David, I think you may be on mute.
Oh, I'm done with my thoughts for the evening, and I'm gonna try and grab a bite to eat before I go to the planning commission.
All right, thanks.
Todd, I know you were talking about Rebecca's idea for the rush, and I know that at the rec they've been talking about food trucks. So I hope that that's part of Rebecca's ideas, food trucks.
You know how Rebecca feels about food trucks. Yes, if we can do it, we're going to do it.
Hey, Todd, one thing you may want to add to that is have, I want to say, tables set up for each of the departments with the directors or some of their staff, so people get to meet, who the staff is, not just Adam, RJ, Rebecca, or asking not to pick on anybody, but actually some of their staff members also.
Absolutely.
Okay. If anybody doesn't have anything else, we'll go ahead and conclude. A couple of things for next month coming up at Town Council. Todd mentioned this already, mid-year budget review will be going on. Park and Rec is going to come at the first meeting, and actually is going to give a summary of what they've been up to the last year or so. She gave it a Park and Rec commission meeting last night, and she does a really good job. And then Todd mentioned also we're shooting for February 15th to have a joint meeting of the Planning Commission and also Town Council. Those are just some of the highlights. There other topics may come up, but just give you a highlight of it. And then these meetings, we're going to do them the fourth Tuesday of each month. And we'll kind of do a look back at the Town Council meetings, and we'll have a featured speaker. And I think next month we may have Ashley from Park and Rec up also. So, okay. So with that, we will conclude unless anybody has anything else. Okay, appreciate your attendance and comments. And like David just mentioned, you have about 22 minutes to get dinner and listen to the Planning Commission. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.